That day, I lay curled up under the bridge, the cold piercing through my bones. My stomach growled with hunger as I silently watched the city lights blur in the misty rain. No one in this city recognized me anymore. The man who once founded a tech conglomerate worth billions of dollars. Now, I was just a homeless guy. No home, no money, no friends, and no one knew why I had ended up like this. And if I told the truth, perhaps no one would believe me anyway. My name is Ethan Carter, 42 years old, the founder and former CEO of Helix Corp, one of the pioneering companies in AI technology applied to healthcare and data security. There was a time when my face graced the covers of Time, Forbes, even Wired. A time when every word I posted on Twitter could send stocks soaring. They called me the brain of Silicon Valley, the architect of the future. And I thought, Claire was part of that future. Claire, my wife, used to be a fashion designer. We met at a fundraising event when Helix Corp was just beginning to take shape. She was beautiful, intelligent, sharp, and always supported me. At least I thought so. Then there was Mark, my younger brother, the kid who once called me his hero, who held my hand when our parents passed away, who swore he'd never betray me. How laughable. Life has a way of mocking the naive with something sweet called peace. Because when you feel at peace, you let your guard down. And when you let your guard down, that's when others tighten the noose. 3 months ago, as I was preparing Helix Corp's IPO plan, Claire told me I should let Mark handle the finances. She said, "He trusts you. He'll lighten your load." I agreed. I trusted her. I always did. We started splitting administrative rights under a new strategy. The paperwork was pre-drafted by a lawyer, someone I hired, but who also happened to be Claire's college best friend. I signed without reading closely. I believed everyone was working for me, for the company. Until that morning. The CEO's office door was locked. My computer was disabled. My bank accounts no longer existed. Then came the call from the lawyer, asking me to come to the office to talk things out clearly. I walked into the meeting room and saw Claire and Mark sitting across from each other, hand in hand. No feeling could have prepared me for that moment. Claire looked at me with eyes colder than any winter I'd ever endured. "Ethan," she said, as if reciting a script, "you signed over full authorization to transfer shares and financial control. We have proof, verified by the lawyer. As of today, you're no longer connected to Helix Corp." I laughed. I couldn't help it, because I couldn't believe those words were real. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked, my voice choking in my throat. Mark stood up. He was wearing the Tom Ford suit I'd given him last Christmas. "You didn't see what was happening, Ethan. The company doesn't need you anymore, and neither does Claire." Then he walked out of the room, still clutching Claire's hand. She glanced back at me, not with anger, but with pity. That look hurt more than a punch. I tried to fight back. I hired a new lawyer, but they said all the documents were airtight. I appealed to the board, most of whom had already been swayed with shares and promises. I lost everything in just 3 weeks. The house was in Mark's name. He'd bought it back from the company following legal procedure. Cars, bank accounts, intellectual property rights, all seized. Claire filed for divorce. I had nothing to contest it with. On paper, I was no one. I left the home that had once been my sanctuary with 2 suitcases of clothes, an old watch, and some loose change from a credit card, 3 days before it was locked. I once thought that if I lost everything, I'd still have friends. Turns out people only remember you when you're useful. A few picked up my calls. They offered empty words. "So sorry to hear that. I'm really busy, Ethan. Hope you understand." Then no one called back. I walked over 8 miles that first night. No goal, no destination. Then I stopped under a big bridge near the bay. Rain started falling. I pulled my suitcase close, sat down, leaned against the cold concrete pillar, and stared at the glowing city in the distance. I didn't cry. I'd run out of tears long ago. Just the cold, the sound of rain, and an emptiness so profound it terrified me. I'd once been a man who had it all. And now, I had nothing, But what hurt the most wasn't the wealth. It wasn't the fame. It was the betrayal. And I swore, with whatever was left in me, I wouldn't let it end like this. I used to think the bottom was something vague, a concept people use to describe failure. But when you sleep under a concrete bridge with the freezing ground as your bed and the rumble of trucks as your lullaby, you realize the bottom is real, and it's nothing poetic like in the movies. Those first days after falling from paradise were a string of moments I never want to relive, yet they cling to me in fleeting dreams and midnight awakenings drenched in cold sweat. I had nowhere to go. Friends' houses? Don't joke. Some even remotely locked their gates when they saw me step onto their porches. Looking like a deranged, unemployed man. Scruffy beard, wrinkled clothes, shattered eyes. I didn't blame them. But I couldn't forgive them either. I tried a shelter. They said I needed valid ID. My wallet, with my driver's license, ID card, and bank cards, had been submitted by Claire in the divorce filing, and her lawyer had the court freeze everything to ensure financial safety. How ironic, when a man who once managed billions now couldn't prove who he was. 3 weeks later, I survived on food from a free meal station. An old lady with silver hair who ran a small bakery sometimes gave me a stale pastry every morning. She didn't ask anything. Principal didn't say anything either. Maybe she knew. I wasn't just hungry for food. I started looking for work, anything I could do right away. But you can't apply to a tech company when your personal Google profile has been cleaned, thanks to Mark and Claire. They hired a PR team to erase my traces from the brand. On paper, Helix Core was founded by Mark, and Claire was the first COO. And me? I was nothing. One day, while wandering the old neighborhood out of habit, I saw a faded blue sign. Hiring drivers. No experience needed. License sufficient. A scratched-up, ancient yellow taxi was parked out front. A middle-aged man smoked by the door. He eyed me up and down, frowned, then pointed at the sign. I asked, "Do I need any paperwork?" He shook his head. "Just need to drive and not be drunk." I pulled my driver's license, the only thing I'd kept, from my coat pocket. He nodded. "Try a night shift. If it doesn't work, don't come back tomorrow." The taxi wasn't what I dreamed of driving, but that night, as I gripped the wheel, watching San Francisco's streets stretch out under pale yellow lights, I felt something strange. I was alive. Truly alive. No shares, no boardrooms, no CEOs or investors. Just me, the car, and the people who stepped in, each with their own story, their own sadness. There was a young girl who'd just broken up with her boyfriend, sobbing the whole ride. A middle-aged man who called his elderly mom and apologized for not coming home for Christmas. A little boy who sat silently, clutching a torn teddy bear. I became a quiet witness. No one recognized me, and I didn't need them to anymore. One night, while waiting for passengers near the financial district, a woman got in. The light from a building hit the rearview mirror, illuminating her face. About 27 or 28, long brown hair, resolute but tired eyes. She sighed, gave me an address on the west side of the city. On the way, she got a call. "I don't know anymore, Grandpa. They say the solution isn't viable. The whole team's stuck." Her voice trembled. "No, I'm not giving up. But if we don't find a direction soon, the project will be cut from the second funding round." I didn't mean to butt in. But when she hung up, I blurted out, "Are you developing an AI integrated with a multi-platform diagnostic system?" She flinched, turning to me like I'd read her mind. "How do you know?" I shrugged. "I've worked on some similar stuff. Maybe the issue isn't the algorithm, but the data feedback system. Has your team tried backtracking the signal and restructuring it based on real-time lag?" She stared at me. After a long pause, she asked, "What do you do?" I chuckled softly, turning back to the road. "Just a taxi driver." I said that, and I saw in her eyes, Olivia's eyes, a flicker of doubt. Not the annoyed kind, but confusion. She was trying to piece something together. "Sorry, but not many taxi drivers know about AI signal backtracking," she said slowly, her tone stretching like she was testing me. I just smiled faintly. "I read a lot of random stuff while waiting for fares, passes the time." Olivia went quiet. The car rolled on through wet streets, rain tapping the roof. She stared at me in the rearview mirror the rest of the way, saying nothing more. But I knew her mind was starting to ask questions. When we stopped in front of a big glass building, probably some tech company's HQ, she didn't get out right away. Instead, she opened her purse, pulled out a business card, and handed it to me. I'm Olivia Hargrove, a I project director at Argentum Tech. If you want a different job or just want to talk more about that idea you mentioned, call me. I took the card, glancing at the embossed text and silver logo. Thanks, I replied, my voice calm, though something stirred inside me. The name Hargrove, not unfamiliar in the tech world. Argentum was one of the top AI medical empires, having acquired 3 startups I'd worked with back when I ran Helix Core. I didn't know if Olivia was related to the legendary founder, Old Man Hargrove. But either way, I had no plans to call back. I wasn't that guy anymore. That night, I sat on a plastic chair behind the taxi garage, the cold wind cutting through my thin jacket. In my hand was the business card. Looking at it, I remembered the days when I had a whole PR team designing every tiny detail of my personal brand. Back then, one signature from me could spike stock prices by 4%. Now, a single business card made me hesitate. I stuffed it in my pocket and walked to the park, where I still slept on rainless nights. A few familiar homeless folks nodded at me. I gave a forced smile back. I wondered what Claire would think if she saw me now. Would she laugh? Feel regret? Or would she just glance over, cold as that day, and walk away? A week later, I was waiting for fares near the downtown offices when my phone rang. Unknown number. This is Olivia Hargrove. We met last week, the yellow taxi, remember? I remember. Can you meet me? Not for work, just I need to hear more of your story, about that idea, about you. I paused for a few seconds, then agreed. We met at a small cafe near the bay. Olivia wore a gray turtleneck sweater, hair tied up high, her brown eyes calm like the first time we met. I looked you up through the cab's camera system, she said bluntly, no preamble. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said, about the algorithm, and I found something more interesting. I looked at her. You're Ethan Carter. I exhaled softly, like the world had just flipped a switch. You were the founder of Helix Core. Your name's gone from the company records, but some old documents still leaked. A few notes, old group photos. And what you said to me that night matches Helix's systems from 5 years ago perfectly. I didn't react, Olivia went on. I don't know what happened, but I know one thing. No one talks like you unless they've lived in that world. I've met plenty of theory-rich people, but no one who's looked straight into the core of tech like you. You understand it. You've lived it. I bowed my head, my hands gripping the cold coffee mug. I had everything, then lost it all. Because of who? I laughed, a bitter chuckle. Because of the people I thought would never betray me. She nodded, not pressing further. Her respect lay in her silence. And I knew I'd just met someone unlike the rest of the world out there. Olivia, I said. I don't know what you want from me, but I want you at Argentum, she cut in. Not to beg for a job, but to build something bigger with me, a project I'm working on, something Helix Core never achieved. I looked at her, surprised. Why? Because I need you. And my grandfather does too. I tilted my head. Your grandfather? He's the chairman of Argentum. And I think you two met once, on a beach, years ago. I never thought a beach stroll could change a man's life. Back then, I was on a short vacation, escaping endless meetings and funding pressure. San Francisco in summer, the wind whipping across white sand, waves lapping gently, no one around but me. And an old man lying motionless on the beach, his face pale. I ran over, checked his pulse. Weak. His breathing was labored, barely there. No one else was nearby. I called for help, but the signal was spotty. Without thinking, I started CPR. I'd learned first aid during my college volunteer days, but this was the first time I'd used it for real, and the first time I was scared enough to cry. 3 minutes, then 5. No response. I was nearly hopeless when he gasped. A faint, fragile breath, thin as a thread. When the rescue team arrived, he was awake. I slipped away before anyone could ask my name. I never knew who he was. Never thought I'd see him again. Yet now, Olivia, this girl I'd only met days ago, was telling me I'd saved her grandfather. 2 days later, I stood in front of Argentum Tech's main building, stepping back into a world I'd been stripped from for the first time. I wore an old shirt and faded slacks. Olivia had sent me a new suit, but I didn't take it. I wanted to come as myself. No mask, no pretense. A secretary led me down a long hallway into a large room flooded with light from huge windows where a silver-haired man waited. When I walked in, he stood slowly, and his eyes looked at me like time had suddenly rewound. "You're the one from that year. On the beach." I nodded slightly. He stepped forward, saying nothing more, just grasping my hands with both of his. His skin was wrinkled, but his grip was firm, like a man holding on to the most important thing in his life. "I've waited for this day for so long," he said. "So long I thought I'd never get to thank you." "No need, sir," I replied softly. "I just did what anyone should." "No," he shook his head. "You saved my life. Without you, Olivia wouldn't have a grandfather. And Argentum wouldn't have a guide. Now it's my turn to do something for you." His name was Howard Hargrove, the founder of Argentum Tech, once called the Master of Biotech. Despite his age, his mind was razor sharp. When Olivia introduced me as the former founder of Helix Core, he wasn't surprised. "I knew that," he said. "I followed Helix from the early days. But when I looked for your name, there was nothing but blanks. I knew someone had been erased." I told him everything about Claire, Mark, losing the company, the house, my identity. He listened intently, never interrupting. When I finished, he said just one thing, "Then take it all back. But this time, do it better." I looked at Olivia, then at him. "I have nothing. No money, no team, no reputation. You have your mind, your experience." "And us," Olivia replied. "The project my granddaughter's developing," Howard added, "is an AI system integrated into home medical devices, letting users monitor health stats in real time and warn early about stroke risks, heart issues, and chronic diseases." I narrowed my eyes. "That's a risky field. The FDA won't approve it easily." "We don't need you at a desk begging for permits," Olivia said. "We need someone who gets both the tech and the people. Someone like you, to lead the way." I stayed silent for a long time. "And what do I get?" Olivia met my gaze, unwavering. "A chance to start over. A chance to stand where you once did, but higher, farther, stronger." I left the Argentum building as dusk fell. For the first time in months, my heart felt lighter. Not because I'd been helped, but because I'd been seen as a person. Not a failure, not a shadow. I stood on the sidewalk watching people pass by. I still had nothing. But for the first time, I believed I could take it all back. And this time, I wouldn't let anyone rip it from my hands again. There's something they don't tell you when you lose everything. Rebuilding doesn't start with action. It starts with fear. Fear of failing again. Fear of being betrayed again. And worst of all, fear of yourself. It took me nearly 2 weeks to step into Argentum's office as a project co-developer. During that time, I still drove the taxi at night. I didn't want to depend on anyone. I needed to afford a meal, a decent place to sleep, a shirt that didn't smell of mildew. Olivia understood. She didn't push. Each time we met, she only asked one thing. "Are you okay today?" No talk of the project, no mention of Helix Core, no poking at old wounds. Just a gentle presence, enough to keep me from feeling alone. My first day on the job, they took me to a secluded area on the top floor, called the dark room. There, the AI dev team had 6 people, 3 software engineers, a machine learning expert, a consulting doctor, and a systems architect. All young, driven, and pretty wary of me. I couldn't blame them. A guy who'd lost his own company, a former CEO, suddenly joining a flagship project, something was off. I didn't say much those first days. Just watched, took notes, nodded. That evening, Olivia called me into a private meeting room. They're a bit cautious, she said frankly. I noticed. What are you going to do? I looked at her, slow and steady. I'm not here to take over. I don't need to sit in the big chair. I just want this project to succeed. And if that means I sit in a corner all day, coding and writing proposals, I'm fine with it. Olivia smiled. They'll see that. In time. On the third day, I started offering small input during meetings. Not just technical stuff, but product thinking. Something I'd spent my life chasing. I pointed out that the current alert system didn't account for elderly users' behavior, people less tech-savvy. The interface needed to be simpler. The data should be clustered, not linear, to spot anomalies early. Slowly, the team opened up. A young engineer named Tyler asked me about lag detection in heart sensors. A doctor on the team invited me to lunch, asking about Helix Core's early days. I didn't brag. I just told the truth. The struggles, the mistakes, the lessons I'd learned after losing it all. A month passed. The project picked up speed. Every morning I woke up, put on an ironed shirt, stepped out of a tiny but clean rented room, and felt a reason to live. Olivia often stayed late. So did I. We didn't talk much, but there was a comfortable silence between us. Once, as we both stared at a screen running a simulation test, she said softly, "You know, as a kid, I was terrified of losing Grandpa." I turned to her. My parents died young. He was everything. When he nearly died from that stroke back then, I couldn't sleep for months. I stayed quiet. If it weren't for you, I'd have no one left. I rested my hand on the table, not touching her, just close enough to feel the warmth from her hand. I didn't think it was a big deal back then, I said. I just couldn't walk away from someone who needed help. She looked at me, her eyes glinting with something soft, real. And now it's my turn. When I left the office that night, I looked up at the city sky, a deep purple dotted with faint stars, and realized I wasn't the man under the bridge anymore. I hadn't reached the top again. But I was taking small steps, steadier than ever. The good news. Our first health risk prediction. AI passed internal testing with an error rate under 4%, a number any expert would call stunning. The bad news. The name Ethan Carter was back on the radar. Not from me. I didn't say anything. Olivia didn't either. And Howard, with all his respect for me, had no reason to announce my identity. At least not yet. But information spreads like a virus, especially when you're a fame ghost who once shook the tech world, then vanished without a trace. I found out during a Monday morning board meeting. A senior member, Greg, slapped his iPad on the table, showing a Reddit post from an anonymous account. Ethan Carter, ex-Helix Core founder, secretly working at Argentum Tech? Guardian A, I could be the biggest biomed comeback ever. I glanced at Olivia. She frowned, tilted her head, but didn't panic. Greg tapped the table. I don't know if this is true, but if it is, we need to clarify now. Why? Howard asked, voice calm. Because Ethan Carter's a controversial name. Rumors say he was ousted from his own company, banned from leadership for stock fraud. I chuckled softly. Rumors Claire and Mark carefully planted. So you deny it? Greg looked at me. I confirm I'm Ethan Carter, I said clearly. And I confirm I was robbed blind by my ex-wife and brother. If you need proof, I have it. But I'm not here to justify my past. I'm here to help Olivia and Argentum build tech that can save millions. Greg sat back, silent. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then Howard broke in, gentle but firm. If Ethan's past is an issue, then I, who survived because of him, will take responsibility. And if you're worried about our reputation, remember, it's thanks to Ethan that Guardian AI rose from the trash drafts of old labs. No one said more. That night, I sat alone in my small office. Rain misted outside the window. Olivia texted, asking if I wanted dinner out, but I declined. Not because I didn't want to, but because my mind was spinning. I knew Mark wouldn't sit still if he knew I was alive. and rising again. And with rumors spreading, Claire would hear soon enough. I wasn't afraid of them. I just worried for those around me. Olivia, Howard, the project team. They didn't deserve to be dragged into a past war I'd never been allowed to fight properly. I opened my laptop, accessing a private encrypted drive, the only thing I'd taken from my Helix Core ousting. Inside were all the documents, emails, recordings, financial logs, clear proof of how I'd been stripped of rights, how Claire and Mark staged it to make me legally disappear. I'd never planned to release them. But maybe. It was time. The next morning, I got to the office early. Olivia was already at her desk, hair neatly tied, face unusually serious. "You know," she said softly, not turning around. "I just got an anonymous email." I looked at her. Short. One line. "What?" "Be careful of Ethan. He's not back to save anyone." We locked eyes. Neither of us spoke. I gripped my laptop bag tighter. A voice rang clear in my head. "They know. They're coming." But I wasn't the man from back then, the one kicked out of his office by a scam. This time, I wouldn't run. This time, I'd fight. 3 days after that first anonymous post, mainstream media jumped in. Not the big outlets, not yet. But the sensationalist sites were lightning fast. Disgraced ex-CEO Ethan Carter resurfaces at Argentum Tech. Revenge plot or redemption quest? The articles were vague, full of hints. Nothing too blatant, but enough to paint me as a loser clawing back at any cost. I didn't need to guess who was behind it. Claire. She always knew how to make the media just dirty enough. Not enough to stain her, but plenty to shove others into the mud. Back in the day, I'd hired PR teams to build her personal brand. She learned fast. And now, she was using what I'd taught her to destroy me. The irony. That evening, I was alone in my office when Olivia walked in. No knock. Her face was stern, holding a printout from another article, this time from a major finance channel. Insider sources claim Ethan Carter is secretly manipulating Guardian AI from within Argentum Tech, despite no confirmed role in the company. Is this a new power play? She dropped the printout on my desk, her voice icy. "What are you going to say?" I looked up at her. No defenses, no pushback. "I'm not manipulating anything. I don't need power. I'm just doing my job because this project deserves to live." She sat down, eyes never leaving me. "And what the press is writing?" I nodded. "Claire. She knows how to sway public opinion. She wants me to back off." "Why?" I took a deep breath. "Because she knows I have proof. And if I'm trusted again, the truth might come out." "Are you going to release it?" I met her gaze. Straight. "Yes, but not yet." For a long while, Olivia said nothing. Then she leaned back, sighing. "Ethan," she said, "I trust you. But I'm under pressure too, from the board, investors, even Grandpa. If this blows up the wrong way, it's not just you who'll be hit. Me, him, the whole project will get dragged down." I nodded. "I know, and I won't let that happen. So what's your plan?" I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city's distant lights. Rain misted again. "I won't fight their way. No media, no tricks. I'll let the tech speak." Meaning, I'll push Guardian AI to the finish line ahead of schedule. And when we unveil it to the world, people will have to see. I'm not back for revenge. I'm back to finish what I started. She stared at me, long and hard. Then she stood, stepped closer, and lightly touched my arm. "And if they keep attacking?" I turned, my eyes steady. "Then I won't hide anymore." 2 days later, I got an email from an unknown sender. One line. "Mark knows you're alive?" And Claire's playing her final card. I read it over and over. No one knew I kept all the evidence in a private encrypted drive, except one person. My old assistant, who'd been fired after Helix Core reshuffled the team. I replied, writing only, "I'm ready." That night, Olivia and I sat at a small bar near the pier. She sipped red wine. I stuck to black coffee as always. We didn't talk much. She leaned her head on my shoulder the first time she didn't keep distance. "I'm scared, Ethan," she whispered. "Scared you'll disappear again." I squeezed her hand. For the first time in months, I let someone see me vulnerable. "I'm not going anywhere. This time I'm staying." And I knew. If Claire and Mark were planning to finish me off again, I was ready to end it. And this time, I held the knife. They struck at the most sensitive moment. Guardian A. I had just entered clinical trials with support from 2 major hospitals. All reports were positive. We were prepping a press conference for a public trial launch in 30 days. Then, a warning letter from Helix Core's lawyers arrived at Argentum. "We have reason to believe Guardian AI contains code, algorithms, and ideas developed during Ethan Carter's tenure at Helix Core, constituting intellectual property theft and a breach of a signed non-compete agreement." Simple but vicious. They didn't need to prove I stole anything. They just needed enough doubt to scare investors, stall partners, and let the press tear apart the rest. They didn't need to win a lawsuit. They just needed time to choke me out. An emergency meeting convened in Argentum's main boardroom. Lawyers, execs, Howard, and Olivia were all there. "I don't believe in coincidences," Olivia said flatly. "They waited until we were about to launch." "I agree," Howard said, voice low. "And I want to know, Ethan, do they have a basis?" I inhaled deeply, then nodded slowly. Guardian AI's core doesn't copy anything from Helix Core. But it's true some initial ideas were sketched out when I ran the old company. Back then, it was just a draft, never developed, no code written. A young lawyer asked, "Can you prove it doesn't belong to Helix Core?" I scanned the table, then nodded. "I can." I opened the leather briefcase I'd carried for months, the one thing left from my past, and pulled out the encrypted drive, that beat-up old thing I'd once seen as my last lifeline. In here is all the proof of how I was manipulated, forced to illegally hand over company ownership. Emails, recordings, and project drafts. Helix Core rejected, including Guardian AI's original idea. "Why wait until now to show it?" a board member pressed. I looked him dead in the eye. "Because I thought I could start over without exposing anyone. But now it's clear. If I don't protect myself, they'll do it again. And this time, I can't let the people who trust me pay the price." After the meeting, Olivia and I sat alone in the empty boardroom. She stayed quiet for a long time, then whispered, "You just dropped a bomb on your whole past." "I know. And now Claire and Mark will do anything to hit back, even dig up the worst parts of your life." "I know that too. Are you okay?" I looked at her, softly. "Number. But I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." Olivia took my hand. Tight. No more line between partners and something more. "We won't let them kill it this time." I nodded. "This time, we'll win." 3 days later, Argentum held a press conference. Under blinding lights and camera lenses, I, Ethan Carter, faced the public for the first time in nearly 2 years. I didn't come as a victim. I stepped out as a survivor. I told it all. The betrayal, how I was brought down, and the journey back from nothing. I released the evidence, every email, every document, every recording of Claire and Mark plotting to clean me out of Helix Core. Then I unveiled Guardian AI, not just my new brainchild, but a symbol of rebirth. The public's reaction was a tsunami. Skepticism, sympathy, outrage. The media flipped. Outlets that once smeared me changed tune. Argentum's investors poured in more funds. Hospitals confirmed they'd continue clinical trials. Helix Core, under investigation. Mark vanished from social media. Claire stopped appearing in the press too. But I knew they weren't done. They were just biding time. And so was I. She came on a cloudy afternoon when the city was cloaked in dim, cold light. I was in Guardian AI's testing area, monitoring a new model simulating real-time heart conditions, when Olivia approached, her face tense. "She's here." I didn't need to ask who she was. I just said, "Alone?" Olivia nodded. Want me to come with? I shook my head. This is something I have to end myself. Claire waited in the third-floor meeting room. She wore a long cream coat, her face almost devoid of emotional creases. Still that same look, the one that once made me believe no one understood me better than her. She looked at me like I was just some employee, not her ex-husband, not the man she once called everything. "Hello, Ethan," Claire said, her voice eerily calm. "Claire." I sat across from her. Said nothing. She placed a stack of papers on the table. "I'm here to offer a deal." I glanced down, not opening the file. "What deal?" "You stop pursuing this. Withdraw all public accusations. Drop the lawsuits. Mark and I will step away from Helix Core. In return, you and Argentum won't pursue criminal charges. You keep your reputation. We keep our freedom." I let out a soft laugh. "You really came here thinking I'd agree?" Claire tilted her head. "Ethan, we were married once. I know you. You're not the type to hold grudges." "You're right. I wasn't." I leaned forward, hands on the table, staring at her for a long time. "But I slept under a bridge for 3 months because of you. I lost everything. Not just money, but myself. And though I don't want to hate, I can't forget." Claire stayed composed, but I saw her lip twitch faintly. "I know," she whispered. "That's why I'm here." I clenched my fists. "You're not here for remorse. You're here because you're scared. Think what you want." A long silence. Then I asked, "Why? Why do it? Not just for money. You never lacked that." Claire looked at me, and for the first time in 2 years I saw something odd in her eyes. Exhaustion. "Because I was tired of living in your shadow, Ethan. Everyone only saw you. You were the genius, the world changer. And me? Ethan Carter's wife. I wanted something of my own. I wanted to stand on top without anyone holding my hand." I laughed, not mocking, but a pain turned to stone. "And you thought the only way up was to tear me down?" "Not at first. But when I saw Mark could do it, that he'd listen to me, stand behind me, I chose." I nodded slowly. An answer so simple it was brutal. "I don't hate you, Claire," I said, my voice dropping. "Really, I just regret loving the wrong person." Claire didn't react, just looked at me like a memory she'd left behind. "I did love you, Ethan, truly. But love isn't always enough." I stood. "Your deal. I won't take it. And I won't forgive. But I won't revenge the way you think." "Then what do you want?" I turned away, pausing at the door. "I want justice. And I want the truth to be seen right. Not just for me, but for the people who put their faith in me." Then I walked out, not looking back. Claire didn't call after me. And I knew. That was the last time we'd face each other. That night, I stood on Argentum's rooftop, wind whipping through. Olivia joined me, holding 2 steaming coffee mugs. "Met her?" she asked. "Yeah." "Okay." I looked at her, nodded. "Now I am." "You didn't forgive her, did you?" I paused, then said softly, "You don't need to forgive to let go." Olivia took my hand. "I'm proud of you." For the first time in my life, I felt I didn't have to brace myself anymore. Just a man, living true. No more running, no more fear, just free. News spread faster than AI could process data. That morning, as I walked into the office like usual, the whole floor was dead silent. Everyone's eyes were glued to a live news feed on the big meeting room screen. Claire and Mark, hand in hand, stepping out of Helix Core's HQ escorted by 2 FBI agents. Claire's face stayed calm, head high like it was a press conference. Mark couldn't hide his shock. Hair messy, chin scruffy, eyes darting like he feared someone would peg him as the villain. The ticker blazed red. Power couple who manipulated Helix Core arrested for asset theft, signature forgery, intellectual property violations, and large-scale money laundering. I stood still. No smile, no tears, not even a sigh. Inside me. Just stillness. It all started when I released the evidence. The data in my personal drive didn't just prove Guardian AI wasn't Helix Core's. It unraveled a crime labyrinth. Illegal share transfers, document fraud, and most damning, abusing trust to seize assets. My lawyer with Argentum's legal team handed it all to the FBI. The agency had quietly tracked them for nearly 2 months before issuing arrests. I didn't pull strings behind the scenes. I just did the one thing I should have. Told the truth. Mark spilled almost everything. Seems he didn't have the guts to face 30 years behind bars with Claire. He revealed money laundering schemes, how they siphoned company funds into Vegas and Macau casinos, then legitimized it through shell companies. Claire stayed silent throughout. No guilty plea. No leniency request. She chose to keep her last shred of pride. The final verdict came. Mark Carter. 27 years in prison, no parole for 18 years. Claire Sanders. Carter. 30 years in prison, no bail. The name Ethan Carter was no longer tied to scandal or mystery. It was tied to a comeback from the depths of betrayal, poverty, and pain. 3 months later, I officially bought back Helix Corp, the company I'd founded, then had stolen by my own family. Argentum became a strategic shareholder, and I, for the first time in years, walked into the office as its rightful leader. No applause. No one lined up to greet me. Just me, and an old photo on the wall, a weathered shot of me with the original crew. Some had moved on, some betrayed me, but a few had quietly followed my journey. I touched the frame, whispering softly, "We're back." That evening, Olivia and I sat on the rooftop balcony, watching the city lights twinkle far off. 2 glasses of wine sat on the table, the sky clear, a gentle breeze blowing. "I thought you'd go for revenge," Olivia said quietly, eyes on the horizon. "I did think about it," I nodded. "But then I realized justice doesn't need blood. It just needs light. And now? Will you keep running Helix Corp?" I smiled, shook my head. "Number I've got Guardian AI, Argentum, you, and myself. Helix Corp's the past." I took it back to close it. For closure, Olivia turned to me. Her eyes always calmed me, like the world's ugliness couldn't touch her. "Ethan, I'm proud I believed in you from the start." I took her hand, squeezed gently. "And I'm grateful you never gave up." We kissed under the city sky. No noise, no flash. Just 2 people who'd been hurt, who'd fallen, and now were piecing happiness back together with their own hands. I'd once lost everything. But sometimes loss is how you find what's worth keeping. And I understood. The sweetest victory doesn't come from revenge, but from keeping your heart whole after it all.